inspire a generation? What if you could change the Marine Corps? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, sergeants, majors, master gunnery sergeants, staff NCOs, officers, and most importantly, the family of the Marines in front of us. Professional military education and professional education is a vital asset for you and your Marine, not only in the Marine Corps, but after the Marine Corps. So thank you for allowing your Marines to attend this PME and taking time out of your schedule. And I want to personally thank the spouses and the children that sacrifice the time for their spouses and loved ones to be here. And if there's parents in the room, thank you as well. You have not arrived. The arrival mentality in the Marine Corps is toxic. We have all had leaders that have been toxic and treat us like we're property. Do you treat your Marines like they're property? Or do you know they're Marines? Do you know your Marines? You see, power, authority, and position will fade. But the relationship you build with your Marines will impact generations. What if you could inspire a generation? What if you could change the Marine Corps? You see, when I was a young Marine, many times I wanted to quit. Many times I was frustrated. Many times I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I was so focused on the toxic leaders that I had been around. But what we often forget is those individual Marines that come in at the right time, that motivate us, that inspire us, that give us their time and their work to help us be better. And when I think back through my career, it started when I was a very young Marine, with a Marine named Sergeant Major, well now Sergeant Major Reynoso. He was a sergeant of Marine. Staff Sergeant Moreland. Staff Sergeant Moreland had tattoos all the way down to his wrist. And I remember not trying to talk to him at all during my tour in 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines as a radio operator. And one day, about a year and a half into the tour, we were doing some landing operations in Kaneohe Bay. And I was down by a tree with my rifle, and he came up and said, "You're an outstanding Marine. You do great work. It will be an honor to have you stay in the Marine Corps." That was over 20 years ago. And then all the way up until just recently, 2 years ago, as a first sergeant coming off limited duty, struggling with my weight, having a kidney issue, not knowing if I was going to be able to stay in the Marine Corps. And a guy named Master Gunnery Sergeant Tony Pope took the time to come to my house and help me meal prep. He took the time to run a PFT with me. And if you know Master Gunnery Sergeants, typically they don't want to run PFTs, right? But he took the time out of his day to come inspire me. Now, on the PFT, he was a little bit late. So like any good Marine, I'm wondering where he's at. I do pull-ups, I do crunches. I'm like, where's Master Guns at? And then I'm running, and I'm like, well, I guess Master Guns is not here. He told me he was going to be here. And then I see his car come flying by me, pull out into the Kinzer gym, jumps out, and he's sprinting out in green on green right next to me, apologizing about how he couldn't be here, or how he was late. And I remember those moments because it inspires me. It makes me motivated to stay in the Marine. So what if you could inspire a generation? What if you could change the Marine? You see, oftentimes, we don't feel like people care about us. Because in the Marine Corps, you go to work, you go home, you go to work, you go home. And if you're a young Marine, you get told to shut up and do all the time. And sometimes the staff NCOs don't take into consideration what their Marines have going on in their life. And to be frank, they don't care. They just feel there's a mission to accomplish. And the Marine Corps' mission first, right? But it's people second, right? And so taking care of our Marines is vital. But how do you take care of Marines? Do you let them get off early? Do you stand up for them and keep them from getting NJP because they were late or they were disrespectful? Or do you say, hey, that Marine was late and disrespectful, maybe we should look at a competency review board that's been happening for 11 months, or it's been happening for 2 months? Do you know your Marines? I mean, really know your Marines. Like what their personal goals are, what their professional goals are, where they're from. Did they grow up homeless? Did they grow up in a violent relationship? Because that matters. Especially if you're trying to motivate Marines. Especially if you want Marines to stay in the Marine Corps. To feel something other than a number. And I'll admit, as a Sergeant Major, it's hard to get down and know every single one of my Marines by their first name and where they're from and what they're doing. But that's why we have staff NCOs. Staff Sergeants specifically. You are a vital part in the success and the how you treat your Marines on a daily basis matters. What you do matters. Are you deliberate in your actions? Do you understand the requirement that has been levied on you? So, because understanding that requirement allows you to forecast and look and know what your Marines have going on and plan to and explain to them how to execute, be able to have balance. Now, balance in the Marine Corps, that's often a topic of discussion, right? We talked about it yesterday. Marines say 50-50. I disagree. No relationship is 50-50, and the Marine Corps is no different. Sometimes it's 90-10. Marine Corps, family. Sometimes it's 90% family, and sometimes it's 10% Marine Corps. But that's on you to figure out for your Marines. Because if you know when operations are going, and you know what's happening through the future over the next year, you can tell Marines, hey, you probably shouldn't try to take leave on that time. Or hey, your daughter's birthday's coming up, you might want to take care of it now and see if you can balance that out. So that way we got this going on and you can plan for it. Because we all know, and we've all been there. Everyone in this seat in this room has been there where it's a Friday afternoon and you have a plan and Staff Sergeant so-and-so comes up and says, hey, you got duty tomorrow. And you're supposed to be hanging out with your family. And if you're in the air wing, sometimes they come up and say the whole unit's working, which is outside of your control, but that's another conversation. So what if you could inspire a generation? What if you could change the Marine Corps? In 2021, April, I got the opportunity to go to a Cornerstone. If you don't know what the Cornerstone is, that is where sergeants, majors, and slated commanders go and they get a bunch of education about the Marine Corps. And several generals stand up and speak. Several sergeant majors stand up and speak. And what struck me in this, as all these sergeants, majors, and commanding generals of many, many years of experience got up and talked, the one thing that rang true across every single one of them is they said, if you can be successful, if you're going to be successful, you have to have humility. Humility is the most important leadership attribute that we don't talk about in the Marine Corps. Why? Because we're proud Marines. Because we're just going to get the job done at the cost of everything else. But I would argue that humility allows you to get the job done better than anyone else, and longer than anyone else if you take care of your Marines. How do you take care of your Marines? You know them, you know what they want, you know how they get it. So, you want to build trust. Trust is another thing. So how do you build trust as a staff NCO with your Marines? I'm going to tell you the number one way to build trust with Marines is to empower them. They want the mission. They want it every single day. What is our responsibility? Our responsibility is to train and educate them so that they have the confidence to execute the mission. If we don't train and educate them, and they don't know what the mission is clearly, guess what? The Marines will fail you. But I promise you, in the 22 years I've been in the Marine Corps, every single time that Marines know, understand the mission, have been trained and equipped to execute the mission, they do not fail and have not failed me personally. I've experienced that in BMGR 352 in the air wing, where we're working 12 on, 12 off, working these long shifts. And we get a phone call to support Afghan operations last July. 96 hours, we got to send Marines out the door to support the refugees evacuation. And guess what? Our planes may not have been ready, but they were ready by the time for launch, because Marines will not fail you if you treat them right, if you empower them. But you have to do that. If you don't do that, you're gonna have problems. And so, I'll leave you with this. If you built trust through humility, dignity, and respect for your Marines, train them properly, you know who they are, you know who their family members are, you know what their personal goals are, they will do something that I think is unimaginable and something that most people wouldn't even fathom. And that is, when you ask them to put their life on the line in combat operations, they will do it and not flinch. And to me, that is the most powerful thing that we can do by treating our Marines with dignity and respect. So I leave you with this. What if you can inspire a generation? What if